So in this short tutorial, I'm just going to very quickly go through how to output an array to a list box. So we're going to create a form similar to this and do the processing. I'm going to take it from the beginning from you. So I've opened up Visual Studio and I'm going to select File, New Project. I've got a Windows form application. I'm not really bothered about saving this because I've already got a version, but you should use for the name, use the name in the class activity, and make sure for the location instead of the default as it's put here, you type in z:// so you'd replace all that bit so it's not using the college drive. But anyway, I'm just saving it as a test. Let's press OK, and what's going to happen is we're going to get a blank form eventually when my laptop wakes up. So I've got the blank form and I want to add a list box to it and basically a button to add the code. Now you can see in my example I haven't got the toolbox showing. If you're in the same situation, do View, Toolbox, and if it's, you can see that there's a little pin here. I normally pin it so the toolbox stays on the left hand side. What do we need? So we need a label, which is just going to say what the name of it is, and if you look down on the right hand side here, I'm just making it larger so I can see it properly. A label, you just need to add some text to say what it is. It's one of the properties. I'm just going to call this array output. So now I've got a label for the form. I'm going to put a list box on next. So list box down here, just drag it, sort of position it, doesn't really matter that much for this example, and I've got that roughly the size I want. I don't want to leave it at the default name listbox1. I've clicked in the property on the control, if I go down to the property side and I'm going to look for the name property and change that to something so it's got a proper variable name I can refer to in the code. I can't see it there at the moment. Let me just make it a bit easier. I've clicked on the A to Z order. Now name, the name property is always in brackets. It's a special property, and we're going to call this LST as a prefix, short for list box, and we're just going to call this output. So label, list box, last thing we need is a button, and I'm just going to drag that across and put it at the bottom. Now for the button you've got two things. You've got the name, and I don't know, I'm going to call this BTN display. So that's the sort of variable name for the button, the one I could refer to in my code. But the button, I also want to change the code, the text on the button from button 1 to something else. So I look down for text, I'll find the text property, and I just put display. There you go. Okay. Now all I needed to do is put the code in behind the button, so when they click on the button, the code is run. You should know this by now, but if you double click on the button, it should take you to a little subroutine. Let's get rid of our properties now because we don't need it so much. A little subroutine to put our code in. You can see that it's called sub, and it's got the name BTN display click. What that simply means is run this subroutine, run this code when the user clicks on the button called display. The code is in the activity, so I'm going to use the same code, and you can copy it in. So I'm just going to paste that into here. So I've got my array. It's an initialized array, and all it does is loads the array with 5 numbers, and then we have a for next loop here that goes through each element of the array from 0, which is the first element, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and outputs them to the list box. Remember, the name of the list box is LST output. So this bit is saying LST output, items, and add. And each time around the loop it's going to add the text number is, and it's going to print out whatever element it's in there. Let's just see what it does. So let's just press display. Okay, very simple program. So it's just outputting all those 5 elements of the array to the screen. So go back to the activity, put the code